So, should I start with my presentation or should I wait?
We should wait for around 5-7 minutes. People are joining. Okay.
Okay, sir.
Okay, just 5 more minutes. Yes.
Okay, sir.
स्टार्ट करें सर? हेलो,
Hello.
विनोद जी
स्टार्ट करते हैं.
वो स्टार्ट 1 मिनट है 15 कर लो.
ओके.
1 मिनट बाकी है. महेंद्र
स्टार्ट करें.
स्टार्ट करो सर स्टार्ट.
Okay. Jai Bhim and good evening to all of you. As you are aware, this lecture series is a part of our celebration of 75 year of Indian Constitution, and we are organizing 75-year lecture throughout the year. In the last couple of lectures, there was demand to understand the PESA Act because we had some presentation on the tribal issues. Keeping that thing in mind, we requested Ms. Susmita Kindo, who is a research scholar in University of Jharkhand, Ranchi University, Ranchi, and she has been working on issues of PESA. So she agreed to speak on the issue of from policy to practice challenges in realizing the PESA Act in Jharkhand. So with example of Jharkhand, she is going to explain about something what are challenges in terms of implementing the PESA Act and also the challenges faced by the tribals. Welcome you, Sushmita ji. Before that, I would like to request Lakshmi sir to say something on this topic, and then he will start. Yes. Lakshmi sir. Hello, sir. Lakshmi sir. Please unmute. Yes, like, yeah. Unmute. Sir. I don't know. Maybe it's a network issue. Maybe Sushmita, you can start. And sir will come in later.
Okay, thank you so much, sir. Thank you so much, sir Vinod sir, for inviting me to present my research work on PESA Act before all of you. Thank you so much, sir, for giving me this opportunity, and thanks to the Center for Dalit Studies for letting me present my paper on this platform. So, starting on with my research work, first of all, I would like to tell that I'm working on the implementation of PESA Act in Jharkhand. Basically, PESA Act stands for Panchayat Extension to Scheduled Areas Act of 1996. This study delves into the critical intersection of public policy and governance in fostering the development of Adivasi community in Jharkhand. Specifically, the study looks into the role of Panchayat Extension to Scheduled Areas Act of 1996. This very act aims to ensure self-governance and safeguard the rights and traditions of Adivasi community. This act has a very noble intent for the development and welfare of Adivasi community, but its implementation in the state of Jharkhand faces significant challenges. As according to the PESA Act, the states in India which has scheduled areas have to implement PESA Act in their states, and the state government has to frame laws to implement the provisions of the PESA Act. So when we look into the state of Jharkhand, we find that the state of Jharkhand, that is the government of Jharkhand, has formulated another set of rules for the implementation of PESA Act, that is the Jharkhand Panchayati Raj Act, which was formulated in 2001. This very act has only implemented few provisions of PESA Act, so this hinders the very essence of the PESA Act for which it was implemented. Therefore, this study highlights that how effective policy making and governance can unlock the potential of PESA Act in Jharkhand. Moving forward, 1 second. The objective of this research is the research primarily aims to analyze the challenges and deficiencies in implementing the PESA Act of 1996 and JPRA Act of 2001 in Jharkhand. It seeks to examine the shortcomings in the legal framework and implementation processes affecting Adivasi governance. It aims to offer insights and recommendations for improving public policy related to Adivasi empowerment and governance structure. It advocates for stronger empowerment of local bodies like Gram Sabhas to ensure better self governance in scheduled areas. It focuses on protecting the rights, traditions, and cultural identities of Adivasi communities while fostering inclusive development. It aims to address governance and transparency issues to promote the socio-economic advancement of Jharkhand's Adivasi population. This study employs content analysis to explore these facets and strives to bridge the gap between policy intent and practice for the upliftment of marginalized groups in this region. Next, we move on to the discussion. In this part, I will discuss about the public policy and governance. When we talk about public policy serves as a blueprint for any society's progress or development. It encompasses decision making, regulation, and actions undertaken by the government to address the pressing social, economic, political, and cultural challenges. Basically, public policy is the plans and actions made by the government to solve the problems in society so that people can live a better life. It includes laws, rules, and programs to address issues like poverty, lack of education, poor healthcare facilities, and inequality in the society. In Indian context, the policies are made by the Government of India through an institution named Niti Aayog. It was established in 2015 and it frames various policies for India. Before Niti Aayog, there was an institution named the Planning Commission who used to make policies under 5-year plan. It was later replaced by Niti Aayog, and currently Niti Aayog is the policy making body in the country. But the question here arises that the government of India is framing policies for the development and the welfare of the society. But how are these policies being implemented in India? For this, the role of governance comes into light. Governance refers to the structures, processes, and institutions that ensures efficient execution of these policies. Basically, the governance actors like political parties, bureaucrats, non-governmental organizations, and community participants execute the implementation of these policies. The role of these actors are very pivotal in implementation of the policies at grassroots level. This ensures transparency, accountability, and participation. Governance bridges the gap between policy formulation and grassroots implementation. Therefore, the interplay of public policy and governance is very important in society's progress. In this context, the study analyzes the PESA Act as this act was formulated to address the issues of Adivasi community and how it is being implemented and what are the challenges in its implementation. This will throw light on the intersection of public policy and governance. Next, to understand the PESA Act, first we must know about the Adivasi community for whom this law has been made. In India, the tribes are commonly called as Adivasi, but officially they are called as scheduled tribes under Article 342 of the Indian Constitution. The meaning of this term tribe can be referred to as aboriginals. The Hindi term used for them is Moolwasi. When we talk about Adivasi in Indian context, they are said to be dwelling in hilly forest regions and secluded from the mainstream society. Their life is said to revolve around Jal Jungle Zameen, that is, water bodies, forest, and land. Originally, these Adivasi communities cleared forest land and settled down there. They formed their own community and set up their own governance system. These Adivasi communities are marginalized communities as they are socially, economically, politically, and culturally distinct. The area in which they mostly dwelled are mineral rich areas with abundance of natural resources. Hence, when Britishers came to India and formed a colonial government, they tried to seize the forest land where Adivasi community dwelt. Their main motto was to extract the minerals and natural resources found in these forest land. For this, the British government framed policies to seize the forest land. Laws like Forest Act, Permanent Settlement Acts aim to take control over these forest land. Now the Adivasi community dwelling in these regions started being exploited in the hands of the Britishers, and they lost their rights over their own land. The life of an Adivasi revolved around Jal Jungle Zameen. It is very important for its existence. But due to the draconian laws of the Britishers, the Adivasi people started revolting. One of the famous revolt was Munda Rebellion, led by a famous Adivasi leader from Jharkhand, Birsa Munda. There was a long series of revolt against the Britishers, and finally the Britishers had to give governance autonomy and land rights to Adivasi. As this can be seen in the state of Jharkhand, where laws like Chota Nagpur Tenancy Act, Santhal Pargana Tenancy Act, and Wilkinson rules were framed to establish land rights for Adivasi community and restoration of their traditional governance system. Examples of traditional Adivasi governance system can be seen in the context of Jharkhand, like Padha Raja system in Munda and Orao tribe in Jharkhand, Munda Manki system in Po tribe in Jharkhand, and many more. But these traditional systems were disrupted by the advent of the Britishers in India. Next, when we look into the post-independence, the Indian government recognized the rights of Adivasi communities. Like the first Prime Minister of India, Jawaharlal Nehru, gave the tribal Panchsheel, which is basically 5 principles to administer Adivasi community. It states that the welfare and development of Adivasi communities needs to be done in the same level as the rest of the mainstream society, but we also have to preserve and protect the culture and tradition of the Adivasi community. In this light, the Indian government formulated the Panchayat Extension to Scheduled Areas Act of 1996. Hence, we can see that the government of India formulating policy for the development and welfare of the Adivasi community, and this could be achieved if it is efficiently implemented. Next, we move on to the Panchayat Extension to Scheduled Areas Act. To understand this act, first we have to understand few of the terminologies which is related to this act. Like the first one is scheduled areas. These are those areas in India where the Adivasi population is dominant. Next is the fifth and the sixth schedule. These two schedules deals with the administration of scheduled areas. Like in the fifth schedules, there are 10 states which come under this. As you can see in the slide, it is mentioned all the 10 states which come under the fifth schedule, and also for the sixth schedule as well. Next, we need to understand the division of power in India through which government administers the country. The power in India is divided into 3 levels: the central level, the state level, and local level. In local level, there is 2 parts: local governance in urban areas and then local governance in rural areas. For this study, it focuses on the rural areas. The rural areas in India is administered through Panchayati Raj institution, which was introduced through the 73rd Constitutional Amendment Act of 1992. This Panchayati Raj institution is also extended to the scheduled areas, but the administration of the scheduled areas comes under the fifth schedule. Therefore, the Panchayati Raj institution cannot be implemented in the same manner as it is implemented in the whole country. Because the Adivasi community in the scheduled areas are socially, economically, politically, and culturally distinct, and laws for them need to be made inconsistent with their traditions and culture. Keeping this in mind, the Government of India formulated the PESA Act in 1996 for administration of rural areas in scheduled area regions. PESA Act grants self-governance through Gram Sabhas, ensuring their participation in decision-making regarding local resources, development plans, and social provisions. Now, moving forward, we discuss about the key provisions of this Act. The Gram Sabha has been given all the powers under PESA. The Gram Sabha is the primary authority for approving socio-economic plans, programs, and projects in scheduled areas. The PESA Act empowers Gram Sabhas to manage and control natural resources, including land, forests, and water, ensuring sustainable use and protecting tribal communities' interests. The Gram Sabha plays a vital role in safeguarding the rights and interests of the tribal communities, including their traditional beliefs, cultural practices, and customary modes of dispute resolution. The PESA Act mandates that the Gram Sabha be consulted before any development projects or activities are undertaken in the scheduled areas, ensuring that the community needs and concerns are considered. The Gram Sabha has the power to prevent the alienation of land in the scheduled areas, protecting the land rights of tribal communities. The Gram Sabha has the ownership of minor forest produce, giving them control over resources that are vital for the livelihood of tribal communities. The Gram Sabha can manage village markets, ensuring fair trade practices and protecting the interest of local traders and consumers. The Gram Sabha has the right to control the production, distillation, and prohibition of liquor, addressing issues related to alcohol consumption in the scheduled areas. The Gram Sabha also exercises control over money lending practices, protecting tribal communities from exploitation by money lenders. So basically, under the PESA Act, the rural administration in scheduled areas lies in the hand of Gram Sabha. Nothing can happen without their consent. Under PESA Act, the state government who have scheduled areas in the state have to formulate or draft rules for the implementation of PESA Act in their state. This provision highlights the intent of the state governments to formulate laws under PESA Act. The question of formulation of inclusive policy for Adivasi communities come to light over here. To understand this, we have to see the implementation of PESA Act in Jharkhand. Therefore, to realize the goals of PESA Act, there is an urgent need to strengthen in grassroots transparency and empower local institutions to address socio-economic challenges faced by the community. So when we talk about the implementation of PESA Act in Jharkhand, there out of the 24 districts, 13 districts come under the scheduled areas for which the PESA Act has to be implemented. But in case of Jharkhand, the state government has formulated another law, that is the Jharkhand Panchayati Raj Act of 2009. And this very act has provided provisions for both the scheduled areas and the non-scheduled areas in Jharkhand for the rural administration. So, when we talk about the challenges in implementation of PESA Act in Jharkhand, first of all, when we talk about the Central PESA Act, which is formulated by the central government and has to be implemented in the states which has the scheduled areas. So looking at in the state of Jharkhand, in PESA Act, there are 22 provisions that has to be implemented. But under the JPRA Act, out of the 22 provisions of the PESA Act, only 7 provisions are included. Hence, this dilutes the essence of the PESA Act for which it has been implemented and formulated as well. Like we can see, as you can see in the screen, when we talk about the dilution of powers, under the PESA Act, when the power has been given to the Gram Sabha to manage and plan about the minor water bodies, the main power lies with the Gram Sabhas. But when we talk about the JPRA Act, the Gram Sabha has been given the power, but these powers are subjected to the rules made by the state government, which is to say that the state government has the final authority as to how the minor water bodies can be managed and planned in Jharkhand. Therefore, like this, the powers of the Gram Sabha are diluted under the JPRA Act in Jharkhand. Next, when we talk about the role of JPRA Act, if like in the act which I have stated in the presentation, you can see that the PESA Act, in the PESA Act, Gram Sabha approves development projects and the plans, and the Gram Sabha shall identify plans and programs and beneficiaries. But when we look at the JPRA Act, the same powers and the functions of the Gram Sabha is given to all to the higher levels of the panchayat system. That is, we talk about the at the village level, we talk about the gram panchayats. Then at the block level, we talk about the panchayat samiti. Then at the district level, we talk about the zilla parishad. It is to say that the powers and the functions of the Gram Sabha is not properly distinct between as to who will perform these functions. Like in the PESA Act, it is given pure correct in a very clear manner that the power lies under the Gram Sabha. But under the JPRA Act, the power of the same provisions, it has been divided into the all the 3 levels of the panchayat system, which is to say that the Gram panchayats, the panchayat samiti, and the zilla parishad can make the any plans or any provisions regarding the development plans or the projects. It is not divided as to who will perform which functions. So it also lacks clarity that there is no proper distribution of powers under the JPRA Act, and hence this leads to confusion among the actors or the agencies who are going to implement these act at the ground level, like the political parties, the bureaucrats, the non-governmental organization. These are the actors who implement these policies at the grassroots level. But due to the confusion and the non-clarity in the JPRA Act's provision, it is quite confusing that how is this act is supposed to be implemented in Jharkhand. Further, it also leads to corruption and confusion among the implementing agencies, and hence hence in Jharkhand, the implementation of the PESA Act as well as the JPRA Act faces many significant challenges. Next, when we move on to the theoretical framework of this research, the theoretical framework of this research is grounded in public policy and governance theories with a focus on marginalized communities. The research examines how policies like the PESA Act and JPRA Act are formulated and implemented. It relies on William Jenkins' concept of policy as interrelated decisions aimed at achieving societal goals. This helps to analyze the challenges in translating policy into practice, especially in the context of Adivasi governance. Next, it draws on governance models emphasizing transparency, accountability, and community participation. The Gram Sabha is central to this framework as a democratic institution for grassroots decision making. Drawing from the Ambedkarite principles, the study incorporates theories of social justice, equality, and the empowerment of disadvantaged groups, highlighting the protection of Adivasi cultural and traditional rights. The research aligns with the principles of Panchayati Raj institutions and decentralized governance, emphasizing the role of Gram Sabhas in planning resource management and safeguarding Adivasi interests. This framework provides a lens to critically analyze governance and policy gaps while proposing solutions for the inclusive development of Jharkhand's scheduled area. Now, when we talk about the implications of this theoretical framework in the study, the theoretical framework in this study has several significant implications for both policy making, governance, and societal progress. By analyzing the gaps between the intended purpose and the actual implementation of the policies like PESA Act and the JPRA Act, this framework underscores the need for creating more effective and context-specific governance mechanisms. Next, the framework emphasizes on social justice and empowerment, which encourages active participation of Adivasi communities in governance. It promotes grassroots democracy and strengthens local bodies like Gram Sabha. By addressing environmental conservation and socio-economic challenges, the framework advocates for policies that are substantial and inclusive, ensuring long-term benefits for both the community and the ecosystem. Highlighting the intersection between the traditional governance system and modern frameworks, the research can influence future policy making as well, which has to respect cultural traditions while aligning with contemporary governance needs. The focus on governance framework encourages systems that are transparent, accountable, and responsive to the needs of marginalized population, reducing corruption and inefficiencies. The framework provides a way to harmonize Adivasi governance practices with the state-led structures, preserving cultural identities while enhancing administrative efficiencies. Next, when I talk about the contribution of the study to the existing knowledge, this research paper provides detailed insight into the obstacles faced in implementing the PESA Act and JPRA Act in Jharkhand, adding a nuanced layer to public policy and governance literature. It highlights the intersection of grassroots democracy and indigenous governance, offering a fresh perspective on strengthening Adivasi rights and the role of Gram Sabhas. By analyzing deficiencies in the legal framework and governance structure, the work enriches the discourse on policy making for marginalized community. The study emphasizes the importance of sustainable inclusive development, addressing socio-economic challenges specific to Jharkhand's Adivasi population. As for the research gap, the study identifies the loopholes in PESA and the JPRA Act, particularly in the dilution of Gram Sabha's power, an area not sufficiently studied in the context of Jharkhand. The study fills the gaps between the policy intent and practice by focusing on transparency and accountability in governance. It emphasizes safeguarding Adivasi cultural identity and traditions, bridging the gap between modern governance and indigenous systems. Moving forward towards the future research exploration that can be done after the study, it would be there may be a need for more case studies or primary data from the Gram Sabhas and Adivasi communities in Jharkhand to strengthen the findings. The research would expand by comparing the implementation of PESA and JPRA Act in Jharkhand with other states to provide a broader perspective, incorporating the voices of policymakers, bureaucrats, and community leaders would further enrich the analysis of the governance structures. As for the methodology which is used in this research, the study utilizes an approach involving content analysis to examine the challenges in implementing the PESA Act and the JPRA Act. This approach focuses on identifying gaps in the legal framework, governance structures, and implementation processes. In this research, qualitative method was applied to analyze policy documents, governance structures, and administrative practices. The study also incorporates a critical review of relevant laws, reports, and secondary data to provide a comprehensive understanding of the issue. This method was chosen to systematically evaluate the obstacles in empowering Gram Sabhas and protecting Adivasi rights in Jharkhand. It facilitates a deeper understanding of policy inefficiencies and enables the formulation of actionable recommendations for improving governance and promoting inclusive development. Moving on to the key findings of this research, the results indicate that the implementation of PESA Act and JPRA Act is hindered by the significant governance and administrative challenges, particularly the dilution of the Gram Sabha. The findings reveal that the legal loopholes and ineffective policy implementation have marginalized Adivasi rights with the sufficient transparency, accountability, and grassroots participation in decision-making process. It was observed that the data highlights the gap between policy intent and not on-ground execution, emphasizing the need for strengthening local governance structures to ensure inclusive and sustainable development for Adivasi communities in Jharkhand. The implications of these research findings can be the results mean that addressing governance and administrative challenges in implementation of the PESA Act and the JPRA Act is crucial in strengthening local governance and empowering Gram Sabhas in Jharkhand. This suggests that the legal and the structural reforms are necessary to protect Adivasi rights, foster grassroots democracy, and ensure inclusivity in the decision-making process. The broader impact of this work is that it provides a roadmap for sustainable and inclusive development, creating a stronger framework for the socio-economic and cultural upliftment of marginalized Adivasi communities across scheduled areas. Finally, after all the studies, it was the aim that the policymakers would take proper decisions or frame new laws regarding the implementation of PESA Act in Jharkhand, or it would incorporate incorporate the provisions of the PESA Act under the JPRA Act and amend it. So according to the study, there are few policy recommendations. The first one is it is to amend the JPRA Act to ensure that Gram Sabhas have real decision-making powers, especially in areas like land acquisition, resource management, and welfare program implementation. One must also establish monitoring and accountability mechanism to ensure proper execution of the PESA Act and the JPRA Act, which will encourage transparency by involving community representatives. Next, there should be regular training programs should be conducted for Gram Sabha members and local officials to enhance their understanding of laws, governance, and administrative processes, uh, and to address the legal loopholes in the JPRA Act to eliminate the ambiguities and reinforce the role of Gram Sabha in safeguarding Adivasi rights and cultural identities. Uh, then moving when then moving to the conclusion for my research paper and the discussion, I would like to say that the research highlights the significant challenges in implementing the PESA Act of 1996 and the JPRA Act of 2001 in Jharkhand. It reveals gaps in governance, administrative inefficiencies, and legal loopholes that hinder effective tribal empowerment and grassroots democracy. By addressing these deficiencies, the study emphasizes the need for reforms to protect Adivasi rights, improve governance, and promote sustainable development. Further, the study provides critical insights into tribal governance and policy implementation, focusing on marginalized Adivasi communities. It serves as a guide for policymakers to enhance local governance, protect indigenous cultural identities, and also it is very important to bridge the gaps between policy intent and practice. Its findings are pivoted in advocating for inclusive development and social justice in scheduled areas across India. Therefore, I would like, by throwing light on the situation of the PESA Act in Jharkhand presently, uh, um, in 2022, there was the Panchayat elections was to be held in 2022, but the Adivasi communities in Jharkhand demanded that we want the implementation of the PESA Act, and so we will prohibit or we will not participate in the Panchayat elections, which were going to be held in 2022. And there was also a BIL filed in the High Court of Jharkhand for the implementation of PESA Act Jharkhand. The High Court has given the rule that and has ordered the state government of Jharkhand to draft the rules for the implementation of PESA Act. And currently, the newly elected government in Jharkhand has also in the manifesto said that they would implement the rules and the regulations of PESA Act in Jharkhand. So it is very crucial to see the intent of the government of Jharkhand as to how they are going to implement or draft the policies of PESA Act in Jharkhand, because presently the JPRA Act, only few provisions of PESA Act are implemented in Jharkhand, but the major provisions of PESA Act, like for any land acquisition in the state of any tribal land, or for any giving license for mining extractions, or for any development projects where land acquisition is required, or for any development projects, the Gram Sabha's permission is very important. But under the JPRA Act, this very important provision of the PESA Act has been diluted, or for the important provisions like for giving license for the mining extractions, or for the development projects, or for the land acquisition, or for the land alienation, the provisions are only not made under the JPRA Act. A set of other rules are made for these provisions, and under those rules the power lies under the state government. Hence, the role of Gram Sabha is not the means the Gram Sabha has not been given the importance as to implementing these provisions in the state of Jharkhand. So it becomes very important to see if the state government, which holds most of the authority or the powers under the PESA Act in Jharkhand, would draft laws which would delineate the provisions or the powers of the PESA Act from the state to the Gram Sabhas. So it is very important to see or to study that how these government of Jharkhand is going to implement or the draft the provisions of PESA Act in Jharkhand. So this is all from my discussion and from my presentation. Thank you so much for patiently listening to me. And if anybody has any suggestions or any feedback for my research or any queries, then I'm very pleased to answer all those questions. Thank you so much.
Great. Thank you, Sushmita. So we invite the questions from the audience now. Please unmute and ask questions. So wonderful presentation, Sushmita, you have made. And we understood a lot of important issues related to the PESA Act and also its implementation in Jharkhand.
हेलो
Yes, please.
हाँ हाँ सुष्मिता जी यू नो हिंदी
Yes, I'm listening.
हाँ मैं सुखदेव हूँ हिमाचल से हमारा भी
जी,
5th में एरिया है पेशा का यहाँ भी दो
जी,
तरह का एक तो आपका बड़ा कम्प्रिहेंसिव रिसर्च है पूरा इसके लिए थैंक्स आपने बड़ा अच्छा से प्रेजेंट किया और बड़ा अच्छा आपका रिसर्च रहा है कम्प्रिहेंसिव अब पॉलिसी लेवल पे दो तीन इश्यूज हैं एक तो पहला इशूज हम हिमाचल में देखते हैं यहाँ जियोग्राफिकली ट्राइबल एरिया है हिमाचल का जो ट्राइबल्स डिस्ट्रिक्ट हैं दो और दो सब डिवीजन है हिमाचल में तो ये इनको हम कहते हैं जियोग्राफिकली ट्राइब्स तो दे कास्ट हिंदू हैं सारे लोग और वो डिस्क्रिमिनेशन होता है आफ्टर पेशा इम्प्लीमेंटेशन जो है जब पेशा लागू हो गया उस एरियाज में तो उसके बाद उनको वहाँ जो एट्रोसिटीज होती है वो प्रोटेक्शन नहीं मिल पाता है क्योंकि वो शेड्यूल कास्ट शेड्यूल ट्राइब प्रिवेंशन ऑफ एट्रोसिटी एक्ट है तो एक बड़ा इशू हो गया दूसरा इशू रिप्रेजेंटेशन का हो गया जो उनको लोकल गवर्नेंस में रिप्रेजेंटेशन था पंचायत प्रधान बनते थे वार्ड मेंबर ब्लॉक पंचायत का रिप्रेजेंटेटिव या जिला परिषद में रिप्रेजेंटेशन था उनका तो वो रिप्रेजेंटेशन भी खत्म हो गया एक तो पेशा के इम्प्लीमेंटेशन होने के साथ उनका जो शेड्यूल ट्राइब दलित है उनको एक टर्म दी गई है शेड्यूल ट्राइब दलित वो हमारे एक साथी हैं जो इस पे काम कर रहे हैं उन्होंने मोटा में एक पिटीशन भी किया है तो उन्होंने एक टर्म दिया है शेड्यूल ट्राइब दलित का तो वो एक बड़ा इशू है और वो शायद पूरे देश में ही अभी हम पीछे हैदराबाद में थे तो सेंटर फॉर दलित स्टडीज के उधर कार्यक्रम हुआ है तो वहां भी कुछ तेलंगाना के लोग आए थे कि जो शेड्यूल एरियाज में जो दलित हैं शेड्यूल कास्ट है तो उनके साथ जो अनटचेबिलिटीज होती है उनको प्रोटेक्शन नहीं मिलती है शेड्यूल कास्ट प्रिवेंशन ऑफ एट्रोसिटी एक्ट तो एक बड़ा इशू ये है और दूसरा जो मुद्दा है पॉलिसी लेवल पे कि जो कम्युनिटी कंट्रोल ओवर लाइवलीहुड रिसोर्सेज जो आपने कहा वो हिमाचल में भी इशूज है यहाँ भी ट्राइबल एरियाज में काफी डैम बन गए टनलिंग आ गई तो वहाँ एक कंपेन शुरू होगी नो मीन्स नो तो एक बड़ा कंपेन चल रहा है यूथ का एक कंपेन चल रहा है उस एरिया में कि भी हमें बड़ा मेगा हाइड्रो चकनी चाहिए क्योंकि डिजास्टर आया उसकी वजह से हिमाचल में तो वो एक बड़ा कंपेन चल रहा है तो एक बड़ा इशू है क्योंकि स्टेट नेशनल इंटरेस्ट के लिए प्रोजेक्ट बना लेती है तो झारखंड की स्थिति भी वही है छत्तीसगढ़ की स्थिति भी जो भी ट्राइबल एरियाज है तो पेशा तो इम्पावर करता है ग्राम सभा को आपने कहा वहाँ पैरेलल जो झारखंड पंचायती राज एक्ट है वो डाइल्यूट कर रहा है कुछ सिस्टम में कुछ इंस्टीट्यूशन के एम्पावरमेंट को तो वो गवर्नेंस सिस्टम को डाइल्यूट कर रहा है वो बात अलग है परंतु नेशनल इंटरेस्ट में सरकार जो है वो इस तरह की प्रोजेक्ट लाती है जो झारखंड में भी दिखता है हमें कि जो आदिवासी मूवमेंट है तो बस मैं सुजेशन यही रहेगा अंत में कि ये कुछ साझे सवाल भी हैं हम लोगों के और सुजेशन यही है कि आपकी स्टडी जो पेशा इम्प्लीमेंटेशन के लिए कंपेन चल रही है झारखंड में, वो आपकी जो रिसर्च है उसको यूज करें। बहुत से साथी हैं जो पेशा के इम्प्लीमेंटेशन के लिए काम कर रहे हैं, हालांकि वहां भी एक्सक्लूजन है। वो बात अलग है कि कैसे वो पेशा इंक्लूसिव हो, जो आपने अपने कंक्लूजन और फाइंडिंग में कहा है, वो इंक्लूसिव इम्प्लीमेंटेशन हो उसका, वो कैसे हो। परंतु वो एक बड़ी कंपेन चल रही है पेशा के लिए। तो ये कुछ दो तीन कंसर्न थे। तो थैंक यू वेरी मच।
ओके, थैंक यू सो मच। मैं ये आप जैसे आपने बताया हिमाचल के वहाँ पे कि मतलब एक शेड्यूल्ड एरियाज में, क्योंकि हमारा तो क्या बोलेंगे कि हम हर संप्रदाय के लोग रहते हैं, तो अगर वो शेड्यूल्ड एरियाज का भी बात करें तो वहाँ पे सिर्फ हमारे आदिवासी लोग नहीं रहते, वहाँ पे और भी कास्ट के या फिर और भी रिलीजन के लोग रहते हैं। तो लेकिन जब हम शेड्यूल्ड एरियाज के बारे में बात करते हैं तो फिर वहाँ पे जो लॉज हैं वो बेसिकली है कि मतलब आदिवासी लोग के लिए बने हुए हैं। और जो बाकी जैसे कि नॉन आदिवासी के लोग हैं वहाँ पे, जो वहाँ पे रहते हैं, उनका कहीं ना कहीं उनका भी एक पर्सपेक्टिव है कि उनको राइट नहीं दिया गया है पॉलिटिकल सिस्टम में या फिर गवर्नेंस सिस्टम में, उनको राइट नहीं दिया गया है। तो फिर बहुत बार देखा गया है कि उनका कंप्लेन रहता है कि वो अपना पर्सपेक्टिव या वो अपना जो भी प्रॉब्लम्स है वो अपना सॉल्व नहीं कर पाते हैं, स्पेशली इन द रूरल एरियाज पंचायत के थ्रू। तो वो जो आप हिमाचल में बता रहे हैं वो झारखंड में भी है। मैंने अभी अपना फील्ड वर्क भी स्टार्ट किया है झारखंड में। तो मैंने जैसे कि एक मैं गांव में मैंने विजिट करा था अपनी फील्ड वर्क के लिए। तो उस गांव में वो शेड्यूल्ड एरियाज के अंडर में है, एंड वो पेसा एक्ट के अंडर में वहाँ पे गवर्नेंस सिस्टम भी चलता है जेपीआर एक्ट के थ्रू। लेकिन वहाँ पे ये है कि वहाँ पे दोनों आदिवासीज भी रहते हैं, नॉन आदिवासीज भी रहते हैं। तो जो ग्राम सभा जो बैठती है, तो वहां पे जो डिसीजंस लिया जाता है, तो फिर उसमें यहाँ पे झारखंड में देखा गया है कि जो नॉन आदिवासीज हैं वो वहाँ पे पार्टिसिपेट नहीं कर रहे हैं, बल्कि उन्होंने खुद का अपना एक ग्राम सभा बना लिया है। मतलब कि एक आदिवासी लोग अपना एक ग्राम सभा कंडक्ट कर रहे हैं और अपना गवर्नेंस चला रहे हैं, और अपना जो नॉन आदिवासीज है वो भी अपना गवर्नेंस चला रहे हैं। तो फिर ये जो डुअलिटी है मतलब कि गवर्नेंस का एट द ग्राउंड लेवल, तो फिर मुझे लगता है कि जो अब मैंने इंक्लूसिव पॉलिसी इम्प्लीमेंटेशन के बारे में बात की, तो मैंने वहीं के आदिवासी लोगों के बारे में बात किया कि जैसे कि कोई भी डेवलपमेंट प्रोजेक्ट्स आती है सरकार के लिए, उनकी जमीनें ले ली जाती हैं। तो वहां पे उन्होंने कहा कि ठीक है, हमें कोई आपत्ति नहीं है कि सरकार अगर नेशनल इंटरेस्ट के लिए हमारा जमीन लेती है या फिर हमसे मांग करती है। लेकिन उनका कहना है कि अगर जैसे कि झारखंड एक मिनरल रिच स्टेट है, तो यहाँ पे बहुत ज्यादा कोल मतलब कोल की माइनिंग होती है। तो जो शेड्यूल्ड एरियाज के रीजन में जैसे कि अगर कोई माइनिंग का एरिया हो निकल जाता है, तो फिर यहाँ पे जो सीसीएल है, जो कोल इंडिया के थ्रू वो जमीन मतलब डेवलपमेंट प्रोजेक्ट के नाम पर सरकार उसको अपने अंडर में ले लेती है। लेकिन यहाँ के आदिवासी लोगों का कहना है कि अगर आप माइनिंग के लिए हमारा जमीन ले रहे हो तो ठीक है, हमें कोई दिक्कत नहीं है, हमें देश की मतलब कि हमें नेशनल इंटरेस्ट पे या देश के डेवलपमेंट के लिए हम लोग को अपना जमीन देने के लिए कोई आपत्ति नहीं है, हम अपने ग्राम सभा के थ्रू आप लोग को दे देंगे। लेकिन ये है कि आप लोग नेशनल इंटरेस्ट के लिए और नेशनल डेवलपमेंट के लिए हमारा डेवलपमेंट को नजरअंदाज नहीं करिए। अगर आप हमारा जमीन चाहते हैं तो फिर अगर आप माइनिंग करवा के मतलब कि बाकी स्टेट्स में जो भी मिनरल प्रोडक्ट्स है वो भेज रहे हैं, तो हमें रॉयल्टी दीजिए उस पे, कि हमारा भी उससे फायदा हो, हम भी अपना डेवलपमेंट कर सके। क्योंकि आदिवासी कम्युनिटीज अगर रूरल बेल्ट में देखा जाए तो वहाँ पे एक इकोनॉमिक अपॉर्चुनिटीज की बहुत कमी देखा जाता है। बेसिकली वो लोग एग्रीकल्चर पे ही डिपेंडेंट होते हैं, और उनको अगर जॉब्स के बारे में बात किया जाए तो वो जॉब्स बेसिकली होता है कि उनको बस खेती करनी ही आती है, फार्मिंग करनी ही आती है। अगर हम उनका जमीन ले लेंगे और दूसरी जगह अगर सरकार उनको डिस्प्लेस करके रिहैबिलिटेट भी करती है, तो फिर उनके पास ये हो जाता है कि उनके पास अब एग्रीकल्चर लैंड नहीं है जहाँ से वो खेती कर सकते हैं और अपना इनकम जनरेट कर सकते हैं। तो फिर इसलिए यहाँ के आदिवासी ये का यह कहना है कि अगर आप हमारा जमीन ले रहे हैं तो फिर हमें बदले में जमीन भी दीजिए, ताकि जो हमारा जो ऑक्यूपेशन है हम वही प्रैक्टिस कर सके। और अगर आप लोग माइनिंग के लिए ले रहे हो या फिर आप लोग डेवलपमेंट प्रोजेक्ट्स के लिए ले रहे हो, तो आपको ग्राम सभा को रॉयल्टी देना चाहिए। कि ये है कि आप फुल रॉयल्टी मत दो, लेकिन कुछ पार्ट ऑफ रॉयल्टी ग्राम सभा को मतलब देना चाहिए, ताकि ग्राम सभा जो लोकल गवर्नेंस है उनको वो हेल्प हो सके उनके डेवलपमेंट के लिए। तो फिर ये जैसे कि अभी झारखंड गवर्नमेंट का भी अभी बहुत इम्पोर्टेंट, जैसे कि अभी डिमांड चल रहा है और देखने को मतलब मिलेगा कि झारखंड गवर्नमेंट अब कैसे ये सारी पॉलिसीज को लेकर आती है या फिर ड्राफ्ट करती है इम्प्लीमेंटेशन के लिए। क्योंकि लिए अभी जैसे कि माइनिंग का भी पावर हो गया या फिर डेवलपमेंट प्रोजेक्ट्स हो गया, वो ग्राम सभा के थ्रू पेसा एक्ट में करना चाहिए, उसकी थ्रू प्रोविजन है। लेकिन झारखंड में क्या किया गया है कि स्टेट गवर्नमेंट ने अपना सारा पावर खुद के पास रख लिया है, और वो बेसिकली देना नहीं चाहती है, मतलब कि ग्राम सभा को पावर। क्योंकि इससे ये होगा कि बहुत सारे जो इम्पोर्टेंट, जिससे कि स्टेट रेवेन्यू जनरेट होता है, वो सीधा सीधा ग्राम सभा के पास चल जाएगा और स्टेट अथॉरिटी उस पर खत्म हो जाएगी। तो फिर ये बहुत एक क्रूशियल मतलब देखा, मतलब पॉलिसी इम्प्लीमेंटेशन का इंटेंट देखा जाएगा झारखंड गवर्नमेंट के थ्रू, कि वो कैसे रूल्स को यहाँ पे इम्प्लीमेंट करी है। और ये बाकी स्टेट्स में भी जहाँ पे शेड्यूल्ड एरियाज है वहां पे भी देखा गया है कि पेसा एक्ट बहुत इम्पोर्टेंट है एंड वो आदिवासी के डेवलपमेंट के लिए बहुत हेल्प करता है। बट कि उसका इम्प्लीमेंटेशन जो है, कि जो वहाँ की स्टेट गवर्नमेंट जो लोकल गवर्नेंस है वो कैसे ये सारे एक्ट्स को इम्प्लीमेंट करेंगी। तो होप करती हूँ कि मेरा आंसर आपको अच्छा लगा होगा या फिर आपके क्वेरीज को सेटिस्फाई किया होगा। थैंक यू सो मच। और अगर किन्हीं का कोई क्वेश्चन होगा तो।
थैंक यू।
और कोई क्वेश्चन पूछना है?
सुष्मिता, थैंक यू वेरी मच। आपका प्रेजेंटेशन बहुत डिटेल से हुआ है। मैं मल्लेपल्ली लक्ष्मण, स्टेट पर्सन ऑफ सेंटर फॉर दालित स्टडीज। I think you should prepare one paper on the basis of this lecture. Then we are going to publication all the papers, uh, total 75 lectures. अभी आपका ये टाइम पे दे दे तो अच्छा होता, और टाइम चला गए तो आप भी भूल जाते, हम भी भूल जाएगा, है नहीं?
एक्चुअली सर, ये जो मैंने अभी अपना पेपर प्रेजेंट किया है वो मैंने ऑलरेडी मतलब पब्लिशिंग के लिए दिया हुआ है। वो विनोद सर बताएंगे, वो अंबेडकर समर
जी
स्कूल
जी।
का एक एडिटेड बुक निकल रहा है, उसमें मैंने यही पेपर अपना सबमिट किया है पब्लिशिंग के लिए सर।
कुछ इसमें जोड़ना है, वो कॉन्स्टिट्यूशनल फ्रेमवर्क, कॉन्स्टिट्यूशनल provisions. You should put in that act some articles, whatever. First, you have to put the what are the constitutional guarantees, rights in the then based on the constitution, the came as a PESA Act. Please add that. That is my this thing. It should be the reference from the constitution. This lecture, it's not a isolated.
यस सर।
The lecture should be based on the constitution. If there is any debate on constituent assembly, you have please put in that should be comprehensive. It's
यस सर,
okay.
देयर इज यस सर।
It's okay, but this is a general lecture. You should add before the act. This is the act like this. This is based on constitution. PES Act comes this. Then the implementation. This is the 2-3 steps you have to put it in writing.
Thank you so much, sir, for your suggestion. I will surely put in these points which you have told
And
me.
every lecture should be like that. Then we are telling the people, but The presentation, okay, presentation. It's a anyway. PESA Act is based on Constitution or Fifth Schedule, whatever this thing. Then before that, even Jaipal Singh Munda, what he says, what was he says in the Constituent Assembly. Then what are the references? What were the references were there? Please think about it. Then it could be completed.
Yes, sir. I will surely think about it and try to incorporate your suggestions in the
We have a time, but
constitutional.
we have a time to think about it. But what will be happen if we forget it? Then we can go another this thing. Not only by you, everybody is like that only. That इसलिए हम अब ये बात कर रहे हैं ना, वो अभी करे तो क्या होता है, इसमें वो चले जाएगा उसमें इसका हीट में क्या बोलते हैं, वो प्रेशर में चले जाता, मगर टाइम गए तो भी हम भूल जाएगा, आप भूल जाएगा, फिर बहुत तकलीफ होता आपको पूछना, आप नहीं देगा तो प्रॉब्लम हो जाएगा. थैंक यू.
No, sir. I will.
Anyway, I think it's good. Somebody is there, anybody on study and tribal supply? Have any idea?
About what, sir?
ट्राइबल सप्लान के इसके बारे में कुछ रिसर्च हुआ आपका, आपका
Yes,
सर?
sir. यस सर, मेरे साइड से तो मैं पेसा एक्ट पे काम कर रही हूँ, लेकिन मैं ट्राइबल्स के डेवलपमेंट के बारे में भी बहुत सारा मैंने काम करा हुआ है अभी, और फिर मैं अभी पेपर्स भी उसके लिए मैं लिख रही हूँ. तो
आई
फिर
एम सॉरी टू आस्क, आर यू ट्राइबल और नॉन ट्राइबल?
आई एम अ ट्राइबल सर.
द मुंडा ट्राइब?
नो सर, इट्स द उरांव ट्राइब.
ओरा, ओके. गुड गुड गुड. आई एम सॉरी टू आस्क, बट because
नो
of
नो,
my
इट्स नो प्रॉब्लम
understanding,
सर.
because of my understanding, I was asking. So thank you very much. Anyway, I thank you. Thanks to विनोद जी आप आपके लिए. और
Thank you,
कुछ,
Sushmita. Yes, thank you.
और कुछ क्वेश्चंस
थैंक
आए
यू
तो
सो मच
पूछ
सर.
लीजिए, अदरवाइज वी कैन वाइंड अप.
Yeah. Anybody want to ask any question?
Okay, we can
Um,
wind up, sir.
okay. Thank you, Sushmita ji. Thank you, sir. Thank you. Thank you, dear
Thank you
friends.
to
थैंक यू सो
all
मच सर.
whoever participated in this meeting. But uh, okay, we can have a next speak. Right. Thank you.
Thank you.